What's up, guys? Justin Russell with RussellMarineProducts.com. Today I'm going to go over some of the features and just some of the walkthrough stuff of a Lowrance HDS 9 Live. Alright guys, so we've got a 9 Live here fired up. We're actually got it on our demo mode here, but we've actually had some calls recently of people just wanting to walk through some of the setting stuff, just going through some of the kind of early on initial settings, just to kind of showcase some stuff. So I've got a unit here pulled up. I want to go over here. We've got chart, sonar, side scan, down scan, 3D, if you have a 3D module and transducer, radar, which I'll be honest, haven't played with very much at all. We have some steering controls for autopilot. We have video stuff, more autopilot over here. We've got some engine interfaces on here as well too. What I'm going to do is I'm going to push this gear button up here and we're going to go into our system. Well, we went into demo mode there. There we go. Gear, we're going to go into our system here. This is going to bring up a lot of the stuff on the unit, and I just want to walk you guys through some of this stuff here. Don't be afraid to get involved here, but I want to pull up some of the features. So you got features, services, navigation, chart, sonar, radar, autopilot, fuel, alarms, units, wireless, all the way down to simulator, and then we've got a couple engine interfaces over here. But the first one I want to click on is charts. And so we've got some different menu options here that you can do. A lot of these are going to be the same on some of the other units that you guys have seen previously, the carbon units, Gen 3 and Gen 2 units as well too. One of the ones that I do like to have on, I like to have the heading extension on, and I also like to make sure you've got your waypoints and routes that are on as well too. You can see where you're going and see where your waypoints are that's on there. Next, I'm going to go to sonar here. This is where I feel like a lot of people get confused about that I really want to kind of hit home here with this. Internal sonar Ch1. That is the blue port on the back of your unit. So you guys running an 83200 in-hole transducer or a puck style transducer and a 2-in-1, you've got to have that Ch1 on to be able to pull that transducer up. Internal sonar Ch2. That's going to be the black structure scan port that you've got on the back of your unit. So you guys running total scans or 3-in-1 transducers, you'll have to have that on to be able to pull up your 2D sonar through CH channel 2. Network sonar is on here. I usually actually turn that off on my units because I don't want myself getting confused with am I looking at the front unit or the back unit when you have two units connected with an Ethernet cable. Network sonar mode. If you have the network sonar on, multi-source, meaning I can pull sonar from up front or in the back. Again, if you're running two units, you have to run 2 or more units for that to be viable. Second thing I want to hit home down here is this installation tab right here. We're going to go in here in our source, Ch1. We only have one transducer plugged in the back of this unit currently. Secondly is I want to go down here transducer type. When you push on that unknown or generic 83200 is going to be a very standardized transducer you're going to see preloaded on a lot of these units. You need to go down here and select which transducer you have. A lot of times, and a lot meaning almost all the time, your transducer will have a small silver tag close to the plug-in on it that will tell you directly which transducer it is. A lot of times it'll just be, if you got an in-hole 2D sonar transducer, it'll be an HST-WSBL. You've also got total scan options down here. For you guys that are running 3-in-1 transducers, you're going to be on CH2 because we're using the black port on the back, and it should auto ID that 3-in-1 transducer for you on the back. I think on the transducer selection mode, it technically will state AI 3-in-1 on there as well. I'm going to go back here, get back in our settings here. I don't have a lot to do with autopilot, fuel, or the alarm system. I don't run a lot of engine interfaces, but I want to talk about wireless settings. This is how you connect your unit to the internet, and this is also how you can connect via Bluetooth to other units or to your phone or tablet. You've got the stuff right there, so you'd have to turn in the Wi-Fi module here if you wanted to connect to the internet. And then you simply push connect to internet, turn on the Wi-Fi feature, everything's restarting here. Now we can rescan. There's our network right there, entering the password. Here's some other confusion, and I'll be honest, I struggled with this the first time I did it as well too. You can capitalize or lowercase your letters by hitting the ABC over here in the lower left-hand corner. I actually ran into a lot of problems. I didn't, honestly, for a long time realize that there were uppercase letters and lowercase letters actually, and our password here for the shop does have both. So I was trying to enter in the password and it wouldn't work. Well, luckily I was able to finally figure that one out, because that became very frustrating. I'm going to back out of this. I'm going to go into network. This is where a lot of stuff can truly help or hurt you. Again, another area where I feel a lot of people do get confused by the amount of phone calls we get. One of the things that you can do if you ever add another unit to it, you can quickly auto configure, and you can pull up all the other units out on your network and go through and auto configure to make sure if your network is working correctly, it will show up on what's called your device list down here. So on your device list, this is going to show you everything that you've got connected via NEMA backbone system. So point ones will show up on here. Through-hole temperature sensors that are NEMA 2000 based will show up on here. Other units will show up on here. Your motor guide gateways will show up on here. Your ghost trolling motors will show up on here. If they're connected correctly and the NEMA backbone system is connected correctly, you will see it on your device list right here. So it's important to be able to utilize that to be able to show if your units are functioning correctly or your network is correct as well. Another thing that I think a lot of people get confused about that I think is another very important feature of this, we're going to talk about data sources on here. Now what this is, again, for guys like me running 2 units or 3 or 4 units on your boat, you can select where you want that. Do you want it coming globally, meaning from all the units itself, or do you want it selected from a specific unit? So for sonar, for example, down here, depth global, I would actually come in here and I would change that scope to local. And the reason I would do that is I want this unit here to be my selection for sonar. So when I'm up front on the trolling motor, I want to be pulling depth and water temperature off of my transducer on the front. When I'm on the console, I want to be pulling my depth and water temperature from my unit at the console. It'll actually come in here and underneath your sonar, it'll also say water temperature as well. We're in demo mode right now, so it's not allowing me to do that. Keep that in mind too, guys. If you do not have transducers plugged into that and it's not getting an accurate reading, it will not allow you to adjust that. So some features you will have to be on the water for to be able to adjust that as well too. Other than that, the unit itself, they've gotten very basic, which I think is a good thing. I think they've gotten back to making things a little bit easier. You've got your chart, sonar, and side scan on here. Very easy basic selections. I don't think there's a lot of things that need to be done here with terms of adjustment. Statistically speaking, when it comes to frequencies on here, your 455, it's going to give you a little bit further range because it operates on a lower frequency, but you tend to lose detail on that. Your 800 kilohertz is not normally going to give you as far out of a range, but it's going to give you better definition and better detail, so keep that in mind as well too. The other thing that I like to play with on here, again, depending on the time of year, depending on some of your water clarity, but more importantly for me, it really comes down to the sunlight and what we're dealing with here. I like to change the color palettes. Now, everybody's eyes are a little bit different. Just play with those color palettes to see which one really makes things stick out and stand better to you, to where you can see some of that stuff, whether it's fish, whether it's rock piles, trees. Play with this stuff. Don't be afraid to mess some stuff up. You can always go back to system restore all the defaults, and go back to where you were from the factory and adjust from there accordingly. They have the down scan feature on here now. Traditionally in the past, we had to go into structure scan, change the view from left, right to down. Now there's actually a square selections for that to bring up the down imaging screen. They do have fish reveal options on here as well too. It's really neat to have the fish reveal, which fish reveal basically overlays a lot of the 2D sonar directly over that. I'm not too terribly of a fan of a lot of the fish reveal stuff. I tend to think it can clutter the screen a little bit. And most of the time, I'm going to run a split screen of 2D sonar and down imaging next to each other anyway, and it lets myself interpret everything on my own without having the computer do it for me. And then if you happen to have a 3D module and transducer, which we do not in this one here, it would allow you to be able to pull this up. You're not going to see a lot on here just because of that. We don't have the 3D module and transducer. I have found a 3-in-1 is pretty dang close to the same contrast and same quality images as the 3D module and transducer, but the 3D module and transducer does edge it out just a little bit. To some of you guys that are not familiar, don't come from a background of running a lot of side imaging and side scan, just stick with a 2-in-1 or 3-in-1. You'll be just fine. The images are great, great, great. Guys that spend a lot of time out on the water and really have to have the most perfect images out there, it would be necessary to justify the extra money for the 3D module and transducer, because the images are a little bit better within that as well too. Next, I'm going to go up here to Sonar finally. We're going to talk about frequencies here. One of the main things that I run my unit on is going to be on high chirp. You get much better target separation that way when you're on high chirp. You're going to see fish arches a lot better because of that on there as well too. You still have your ability to run your other frequencies like you had in the past. Get back here. But high chirp is going to give you a lot better target separation and be able to find fish that are hugging very, very closely to the bottom as well. Sensitivity, what I recommend doing on here, depending on your lake. I'm real close to a muddy water lake, so we get a lot of debris in there. You want to adjust the sensitivity to where you're still seeing bait fish, you're still seeing fish, but you're not finding a lot of clutter, you're not finding a lot of debris in the water. Going to Table Rock, for example, where you've got 15 to 30 foot visibility, depending on where you're on the lake, you can run a much higher frequency and not have the clutter on there, versus some of our local lakes here, El Dorado, they're full of such clutter and silt, you actually have to dial the frequency, or excuse me, the sensitivity down a lot to be able to do that. All right, guys, that kind of wraps up just going over here the 9 live. Now, this is going to apply to any of the live units that are out there, even some of the carbon stuff and Gen 3 stuff as well too. Just kind of a general overview of the unit, operating stuff, and what some of the features are like that. If you guys have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments section. Email us at sales@russellmarineproducts.com. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks, guys.